kickoff meeting, setting up for success. A couple people came up to me and asked me, what is a kickoff meeting? You'll find out in a second. But essentially, it's a meeting to kickstart a feature or big product that you're going to launch in your company. And it can be really a gigantic, huge new line of business, and it can be, I would say, even as small as something that just requires a lot of cross-team collaboration. So the reason I got kind of started and passionate about meetings in general and the kickoff meeting is I came from a nonprofit background. And as you know, nonprofits are mission-driven organizations. And just like politics, one of the biggest, responsibilities is to your stakeholders. You're all about galvanizing their passion, getting donations. You know, these are not thankless jobs. And it's also, nonprofits basically represent communities that typically do not have a voice in the mainstream. So the idea is to basically make a level playing ground so everyone's feeling like they're contributing. With kickoff meetings, it's no different, and you kind of have to approach your organization as product managers in the same way. So the reason why kickoff meetings are often very important is it creates meaning in your organization for the project that you're actually going to lead. You want to have as much buy-in and enthusiasm for what you're going to build because, you know, as product managers, we have very little authority over other people, although we're constantly influencing them. So to build this high investment, this is what we're going to embark on. Today's presentation is all about interactive. We, as a group, collectively, are going to build a kickoff meeting. That's why I was asking for participation. So if you guys in the background, I know I hate to disrupt your comfort, but if you could move down for me just partially, that would be so great. And especially because you said you really wanted to participate. And just gather around. I know it's really annoying. It'd mean a lot to me if you guys came down. Thank you. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned, this is going to be very interactive, so I hope you guys all feel confident in just shouting out. I've got two amazing assistants over here and coworkers. We have Jesse. He's going to be writing down your ideas. And Alice is the treasure hunter. She's going to be rewarding your participation, throwing candy at you. So keep alive, right? These slides are so weird. Okay, so let me come up first. You kind of notice that, first of all, what you want to do in a meeting is get people engaged. You kind of saw that I set some sort of scene and expectations. This is going to be interactive. I came around, I kind of said, hey, do you want to participate? I'm also trying to make it fun, right? You need to basically get your audience involved as much as possible. And another point is establishing presence. So in the tech world, we all know it's a meritocracy. You can show up to work in a t-shirt and possibly sandals if you want to. But I want to challenge you that if you're going to come to a kickoff meeting and stand in front of a bunch of people, you show up ready, dressed for success. I think this is highly important and kind of not highlighted enough in our corporate scene. So, you know, guys, put on a collared shirt. Impress upon your coworkers that you find this to be very important. And then the next important piece is you are basically gathering some of the highest level positions in your company, whether it's CEO, COO, and head of marketing, and they're all gonna wonder why the hell that they're gathered there that day. So make sure that when you're going through a presentation, you're making eye contact with them. Make sure that you always are tying your presentation back to the value that they can bring to your project. Connect the dots for them. Much like when you go into an interview and people are asking why I should hire you, you're gonna connect the dots about your experience in the past and how it's gonna provide that company value. Okay, so we're kind of doing this as a case study, and I'm going to come back here so I can actually read this slide. So we have a company called Brain Noodle. Whoops. A large search engine company is launching a new product aimed at college students called Dr. Reeves. Dr. Reeves is an application that will write term papers for any discipline at any page length for a monthly subscription. A customer simply has to write a thesis statement, and the application will develop a well-written paper and a unique style and voice. Brain Noodle will leverage its search technology to drive the thesis research and argument, and they will release on a natural language processing platform called Yak Yak. Does anyone have any questions about this case study? Would anyone use it? Yeah, okay. Is it legal? Is it ethical? Nah. But would it make a lot of money? Probably. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is assemble your kickoff team. So who volunteered to be my product owner? Yay. We're going to have you stand up for a second and introduce yourself.
Hi. My real name or does the product name? Hi, I'm Asim Rashid. I'm the product owner.
Hi, Ashin. And who is the project manager? Great. Want to tell me your name?
Hi, I'm Francine Nicholson, the project manager.
We've got a designer who's on the kickoff.
I'm Danielle, the designer.
Great. She's fabulous, by the way. And I have one more. Was it partnerships? Head of product? Wow. You're at kickoff. Does it say kickoff in your card? It does not. You're a stakeholder, aren't you? It's all right. We'll forgive you. Sorry? Partnerships. Here we go. You're in charge of Yak Yak. You want to tell me?
My name is also Awesome, but my last name is Shakur, so a little bit different from him. Maybe a little bit nicer.
Does anyone have kickoff on the back of their card that I missed? Okay. Product owner, do you think this is going to be a well-working group to basically make the deck that you're going to present to every VP and CEO? Well, there's one CEO, but major stakeholder. Do you feel like this is a good enough group, or would you like anyone else?
Yeah, you need at least my experience has been you need engineering or the guys who will actually develop the product to be involved from early on. Otherwise, they will come up with reasons, I would call, on why the product sucks.
Who's the CTO? Oh, Harry. Oh my God, I just called you Larry. My old coworker. Great. So we've got 5 people. Now you 5 are actually going to be the ones that are going to be building the deck. These are the people that you're going to be collaborating closest with before the kickoff meeting. They're going to be your right-hand people. These are also, actually the CTO might not be involved, but your head of the lead engineer who you'd be working closest with would be. So you're going to assemble these people and you're going to come together to kind of craft this story, which we'll move through. But you really want to establish a very collaborative relationship because this is going to set the tone with these people you're going to be working with for the next, 3 to 6 months. Once you guys kind of establish the deck, the next thing you're going to have to do is start socializing it, I would say with the mid-senior level. We've got Josh Snow, my VP, socialized my last kickoff meeting with him. He was excellent at providing insight into how we could better make the presentation. So we also did this with the VP of design. As you know, we have the designer that's on the kickoff meeting. So he had some good insight. And our partnerships guy who was both a stakeholder as well as on the kickoff team. So they're all going to have insight and basically help you leverage your ideas to the upper management, the CEO, the C levels to get your ideas across. They're going to be closest to those people, so they're going to know how you should frame your presentation to meet their needs. Next comes who you're gonna invite. So, project team, kickoff team. Who are we going to invite to the big kickoff meeting? Just go ahead, someone throw some ideas out there. Do you wanna write this down for me, Jesse? Okay, we've got sales. Okay, finance. Who else?
Customer service. Okay.
Legal. Marketing. Who else? If you could also put maybe the working team, which would be the project manager, product, partnerships. Who else would we want to invite to this big meeting? Anyone? Who has yeah? Core engineering. All right. If you have a stakeholder card and your role has not been called, I want you to speak up now. Who has a stakeholder card? All right. Who are you?
BI.
Oh, did we forget analytics? Don't want to forget those guys because they're going to help you see if your project was successful.
Head of design.
Head of design.
CEO.
CEO? We forgot the CEO? CTO. Who else? Who else is a stakeholder? Head of product. Anyone else I've missed?
Other product teams.
Other product teams. There you go.
General manager.
Ooh, the GM. She's got a lot of power, actually. Anyone else? Okay, great. Oh, the one point I want to make the difference between stakeholders and partners and who you want to invite to these meetings. These are the people that you're going to want to directly influence but have no authority over. The partners are going to be people that you work with, but pretty much think the same way that you work with every day. It might be other people on your product team. It could be some of the engineers that you already lead. It's not to say you shouldn't circulate the same information to them. You should, but it might not be the right forum for the kickoff. All right, data points. This is the beginning of your story journey. What you want to convey in this aspect is why you're doing it. Nobody likes a project more when they see dollar signs and a big wide open gap. So the first type of insights that you can do are your marketing insights. So here I've done a fake graph of the amount of high school papers and college papers that are written per year. So what kind of marketing insights would you think would be great for our fake business, our case study? Any ideas? Sorry, one person over here. Total market size. Price point of product. Time spent writing papers. Competitors. Potential growth. That's good. Anything else?
I missed one.
Okay, sorry. We were going really fast.
Great. I think it was the second one.
Potential.
Yeah, total market size, time spent writing papers, potential growth, competitors.
Competitors. So the market insights gives you the lay of the land and what your potential opportunity is. This is going to enable your marketing department to kind of see how much budget they want to spend on this. Oops, 1 sec. It's going to allow you to measure success. It's going to allow you to forecast how your product might do. And basically set you up for working with the business stakeholders. Okay, next point is competitive landscape, which someone already pointed out. Here's our competitive landscape for our company. We've got pay for essay. This actually exists. This is amazing. We've got Upwork, which is kind of like Amazon Torque. And then we've got the old classics, Cliff Notes. And then, of course, you can bribe your classmates and whatnot. So your competitive landscape, as this gentleman down here mentioned, is going to help you understand your market fit and how this product is going to fit within the ecosystem of your business. And last, we have product benchmarks. So if you're about to launch a product, and maybe this is brand new, how are you going to get insights as to how this product could perform compared to others? Great. Market research. Any other ideas? How about focus groups? Sorry. Customer pain points, focus groups, surveys, any of the research that you're doing right at the beginning of your product to find out whether there's actually a need for it. Great. And all this is going to lead up to our business goals. So your business goals are what is going to, again, capitalize on the why you're building this project. And this is what's going to resonate with the C-levels the most. This is also the points at which you could go back to refocus your product and argue with those C-levels as to whether it's fulfilling those business goals. Because at times, you're going to be halfway down a project and they're like, no, we need to pivot this way. And this is the point where you get to come back and say, actually, as a group, we all decided that these were the most important things. So throw out some business goals that we could have for this project. Sorry? Break even in 1 year? Okay. So be profitable more or less, barely by $1. Market share? Great. Anything else? Profitability. Yes. Awareness, like brand awareness. It's good. Sorry, one of you. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to actually challenge you on that as being a product goal because it's more for the user. What were you going to? You were going to say the same thing. Well, you guys are thinking like product managers. Okay, so where's my GM? All right, girl. So out of all the business goals that were just suggested, what are the top 3 that you want to focus on? Profit, that's a good one. Awareness. And market share. Okay, so from these, you guys are going to build out KPIs that roll up to these goals for which you guys are going to be consigned for. At the end of the day, after you launch your project or product, feature or product, you can go back to the people in this meeting and say, look, we made this goal, we didn't make this goal. And again, leverage it as a reason to pivot or to influence the decisions sometimes made by people who aren't staying on track, which happens all the time. Great. Let me get my... Okay, next, product goals and principles. Josh is going to laugh at me for this because I still owe him 3 principles. But I actually thought of them while preparing for this presentation. So the difference between goals and principles. Your product goals are going to want to reflect your user goals. So let's say if you're in the mind of your user in our example, our case study, one of the kids, as you mentioned, wants to make great grades. How do you improve their scores? So that would be a user. However, a principle, the distinction that I'm making with principle is how do you take that user goal and translate it to your product goal? So we recently launched an iOS app, and one of the goals was to be able for a streaming, Fullscreen, my product, is a streaming video service, pretty much targeted towards millennials, and you're able to see short form and long form content. So one of our goals for our mobile users was to be able to take it anywhere and have like bite-sized pieces of video as you're moving throughout your day. So I would say a principle, so that's the goal, right? We want our users to find our bite-sized content wherever they are. Now the principle would be on the flip side. So when I'm designing that product, how can I best support that user interaction? That's my distinction. Josh, do you have any other comments about that? Okay. So in this case, what are your guys' ideas about the product goals for our fake product? Yes. Not getting caught. Stealth. That's right. Anonymity. Ease of use. Good. Yep. Product owner.
For the build-up on not getting caught, let's say 2 students enter the same department.
Yeah.
Essays or whatever you're generating have to be unique.
Okay. Non-plagiarism. Yes. Integration of the writing style of the user. Yes. Speed on turnaround, how fast it generates. Great. Harry? Good papers, as in the quality, grade. Yeah. Anyone else? Oh. So like the fallout, how do you worry about the fallout? Okay, great. Product owner, top 3. Ease of use. Quality of papers. Okay.
Do you want to trade one off? Is there one you want to remove?
All right, I like it. Is everyone clear on the difference between product goals and business goals? Okay. Great, design principles. This is when you're going to work with your designers to basically make sure that you're going to have a consistent experience throughout your entire feature. Or if you're building a feature on top of a product, making sure those meld within the specific platform. Another consideration in design principles is whether there's an existing style guide out there, like material science, or material design, and whether what device you're developing for. So how is the web going to differ from, say, the iOS app? Where's my big designer? We've got Jesse, right? Is it Jesse? Danielle. 1 second, I'm getting back to you. Danielle, give me a design principle that you'd like to see implemented. I know it's a hard one as product people. Should we pass? You get to decide the top 3. How's that? Okay. That's it. Accessible? Great. For persons with disabilities? Yeah. Mobile first. You had, who had? You did? Okay. I'll be right back to you. Any other design principles? We got mobile first. What else do we have, Jesse?
Accessibility.
Accessibility. How about in the aesthetics realm? Clear user path in terms of signing up. Okay. Conveying the branding. Multiple platforms. Intuitive. Provides a level of confidence couple. I love seeing this emotional aspect of the design. That's really good. Yeah, put it up there. Jesse. Oh, wait, gosh, Danielle. Sorry. Yeah, so some level of discreteness. So if you have it open on your, well, back in the computer labs when we actually had computer labs, no one else could see you using it? Yeah. Okay, designer, tell me what your top 3 would be.
Yeah, sorry. We got access, mobile first, clear user path, branding, multiple platforms, intuitive, localization, and discretions.
Great. Okay, you had a question. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't have as many options, but I mean, it also depends on the size of the project, right? So if you're doing a new feature, maybe the feature is only on engagement. So in that sense, your KPIs are going to be way more acute. So if it's engagement, it might be page views, I don't know, messages sent. So it depends at what level your kickoff meeting, what kind of a project. I would say if it's a huge new line of business, then obviously it might be an acquisition. It would also carry over to engagement. In the end, it kind of depends on the business strategy that the entire company has set forth for your business for that quarter, for that year. Anyone else have any responses to that? Yeah.
It may also depend on what market you're going in. So you may be not targeting everybody, so it may not be a play for market share. Because if, let's say, you're creating a product that's only going to cover the top 10%, where you're getting 80% of your revenue from, so you may not be, by choice, you're not addressing 90% of the market. So you may not be going for market share.
Thanks. Any other comments about the question? No? Okay. Next, we're going over, and this is all gonna, I know it's kind of a lot of information at a time, but I'll have like a full set agenda at the end so you can kind of see the flow. But the next, you're gonna wanna present your high-level feature set. And the importance of this is this really brings everybody in the room. This is where you point to them about the value that they can bring. It also, because they have never even heard of what you're trying to accomplish, they can kind of see where their role might trickle through the various operations that are going to be required. So, for instance, the anti-plagiarism guarantee, which is, I think, a feature that someone talked about. You're probably going to want to get your legal team involved. So when you discuss this feature specifically, going back to what I said, look at that person in the room, bring them in, maybe even have that discussion about the feature before you have this so that they can even provide some context or comment. Writing style options, perhaps you have a copywriter on staff. You could do the exact same thing. What do you think of these features? Anything else we should add? Ooh, I love it. What'd you say? Graduate version. Yeah, like an upgrade. What, Josh? Sign up flow. Ooh, we totally missed that one. Great. Any other points about the feature set and how it's supposed to convey in this process? Go ahead. Yep, payment. Have to integrate with someone. Whether or not you're going to do PayPal. Anyone else? Yes. Oh, yeah, I only heard that term today, so I'm not super familiar with it, but it was might have, could have, would have, should have. Was that what it was? Shoulda, would, coulda. Yeah, you know, the reason why I kind of broke this out is because I think it's always good to have stretch goals. Like, you're gonna have your MVP, right? But if you can somehow get all of that done and have some stretch features that you know might fulfill some of the other product or business goals, and your company has made time for that, that's great. It also plants the seed among your coworkers on inspiration. So by having a feature set, I mean, one of the other things that you're going to want to do in communicating on this slide is ask your coworkers what they think. Do they have any other ideas? Get them involved so that they feel that they can come to you at any point in the process and pitch their idea. Again, creating that ownership in this meeting is kind of what it's all about. All right, milestones and timeline. Again, this is another part where you're going to use the audience in the stakeholder meeting to get them on your side, and also, not publicly shame them, but bring it out so that they're responsible for given points of that process. You know, a timeline can be really unwieldy. You can have checkpoints, like if it's a 3-month project, every couple weeks, you don't want to overwhelm the users with a really complicated graph, but highlighting a few milestones such as like kickoff meeting, midway point, legal review. These are the type of things that you want to do. So for instance, this is one of the graphs that we did for our iOS app. We had our kickoff meeting, and each milestone point relates back to a department or someone that was in the meeting. So we have design approval, that's going to be with your C-levels and some of the larger stakeholders. Art asset collection, since we're streaming video site, we have to have assets for all our videos. That's pretty much it with the timeline and milestones. Any questions? Yes. You're working with your project manager who have hopefully disseminated a lot of the main features and gotten estimates as to how long things will take. And so recall that you've probably circulated some of these ideas already in your project group as well with the senior level. So you kind of have some buy-in already going into the stakeholder meeting. It's really those fringe stakeholders that might not be aware, like the VP of marketing. Maybe legal probably wasn't in that original footpath. So yeah, it's proposed, but it also had a little bit of pre-buy-in. Yes, exactly. I kind of glossed over that in the pre-kickoff meeting, but you already did a really good job of that. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so her question was, how do you present this in a way to manage stakeholders' expectations? I think in the conversations we've had today, how roadmaps are always changing, you kind of have to go in here with caveats, but it's not unheard of at all to have a product that actually has a deadline, right? Because business has needs, and as much of an agile fashion that we want to work in, we have commitments to larger forces at work. So, you know, I think it goes into, once you're in the process, this is a very idealized version, but if you start seeing technical scope that wasn't found, scope creep, it's all about having those conversations at the onset of saying, okay, well, we can launch with this, but that means you're not getting this. Or we can get both, but it's going to be a delayed timeline. So it's, again, always that trade-off conversation that product managers are forced to have often. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're looking at all the marketing because what team may say, oh, we're tied up with a redesign for 6 months.
So you're talking about if it's a mobile-only app, how you get the resources for a different...
Brands that are launching multiple products, they may have a web design initiative that in July they're going to redesign the entire website.
that is a conflict to the current project that you're doing? Okay. Yeah. Oh, the dependencies? Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, this kickoff meeting has basically come from the ideation of the feature. Who knows where it came? It could come from a product person. It could have been handed down for business. But what this this kickoff meeting is going to do is basically tell you that business is like 100% behind this project. I mean, really, it gives you a level of legitimacy and establishes a sense of leadership within that group to basically say, okay, we know that there's trade-offs in other areas of the business, but push comes to shove, you're always going to have a priority. You can work in parallel, but something always, like a priority is like a, ordered list. I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah. Yes. Yes. When teams, you're saying date, you're saying like marketing? Are you saying business? Because I was like, my engineering team would never want to see a date. But yeah, go ahead.
So I think another thing that you would want to point out, or things that I like to point out, is assumptions that I've made, and I'll list them. And if your assumptions at some point become invalidated or aren't true, then your timeline is probably going to get impacted.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments about this area, something that you might want to include? The larger team here running this project. The launch? Yeah, that's the second slide. I didn't do that. I didn't want to overwhelm you, but this is the beginning of it. There's a whole other 3 months on another side, but yes, you'd want to put the actual launch date. That's good. Okay, your project team leads. So you're going to invite these people to the meeting as well. They weren't necessarily in your kickoff organization meeting, but these are going to be the points of contact that you introduce to this group. So that way, if you have legal coming up to you and trying to find out the due date of when their review of the terms of service and where they should show up, you know to direct that person to the project manager. So you're going to go through these roles. You probably saw on the cards that a lot of these team leads were also in your core kickoff meeting planner group. And yeah, a lot of times people, especially like fast-growing companies like Fullscreen, you'd be surprised at like how often people switch roles. Like product manager might be on the web one day and then working on an app the other. So it's important to kind of reintroduce these people. And as new hires come on, a lot of people don't know where to go. So this also helps you as a product person kind of deflect a lot of the questions that might come down the road. This is what I used for my project team for the last project that I did. Does anyone else see any opportunities for other team leads that they would include for this project? Yeah. QA engineer. Anyone else? Anyone else? Any other teammates? Okay. The last thing in your presentation is you're going to want to demonstrate next steps. This is the actionable piece of the kickoff. Basically, what happens next is you'll probably want to set up a design review and the first expectation of where these people can actually see the manifestation of your project. I would also recommend circulating the same deck in smaller groups. So if you know that you're going to work with the mobile team, do a mini one of these just with the mobile team. It's really important in terms of creating buy-in among your engineers to be able to convey that value and actually why business is excited about this. It's too often where they don't understand the whole point of even a feature that you're developing. Another next step we did was circulating this exact deck. And I think that was it. Any other next steps that you think should be really important to this process? Yes. Yeah, I love that idea. So she was talking about customer validation, so perhaps getting a prototype out there and getting the report back, some data. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So doing pre-sales in some way? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Any other next steps you could see in this process that might be integral for you to build that consensus and buy-in? Yep.
Let me see if I can repeat that. So depending on the size of the project, you might need buy-in from dependent teams that your project will depend on, because their priorities and their deliverables, their KPIs would be different. So if they're not aligned with you, your project will suffer. So you need to make sure everybody's on the same page and they are on board with your planning.
Thanks. I put an appendix back here because you're often going to be asked, once you're doing the business goals, some things that you didn't expect. GM, can you ask me a question that I didn't expect to answer? Did you see the slide? It answered it for you. Yeah, so if you know, you can anticipate some questions that might come up that you hadn't thought about in terms of your data points. I recommend putting them in the appendix just because you're not going to want to overwhelm your audience with too many data points. So here was what we just went over as a quick review. So you have your opportunity overview. I kind of set the stage with our case study. Then we demonstrated some data points broken down by 3 points. Market insights. We looked at the competitive landscape and any of the product benchmarks. Then we went into the business goals. This is going to be what, again, you tie your KPIs back to. Then you have your product goals and or principles, and that's where you keep your ship afloat and steered in the right direction on behalf of the user. You've got your design goals, and that's going to help you when you're in multiple design reviews on how to better steer the approval process. We have our high-level feature set. This is, again, to give people an idea about how this is going to work and to point out different points at which that stakeholder may be responsible for. So perhaps marketing or sales was really, really looking forward to one feature. You can point to them and say, hey, this is the feature you've been asking for forever. Get ready to market the hell out of it. Same thing with milestones and timeline. This is about accountability and making sure people know that when they're going to be called upon. Your project team leads are your points of contact and who to direct the questions to. And then your next steps is the follow through to keep the momentum going. Your appendices, again, are all your data points. So this is it. This is the presentation. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? Yes. What was the difference? So my point was saying the product goals, you want to think from the user standpoint. You want to think about what the user wants to accomplish. Like, why are you doing this to better serve your customer? The principle is going to be that translated into a product. So my example, I'll do another example with our over-the-top streaming, like say an OTT box for Fullscreen. I wrote it down, let me get it. Okay, so one of the product goals would be to make sure users have an experience where they can lean back on their couch and actually view, in a 10-foot viewing experience, this amazing video in their living room, right? It's a very different experience than on your mobile or maybe on your laptop. That would be the goal. Now, the principle in translation would be, how am I gonna be able to make sure that is the prime focus of that product? So perhaps if I have settings and some other features, like say, commenting on the movie, or even, I don't know, listening to the soundtrack of that movie in a different section, you're gonna make sure that those aren't as prominent in your app as like the actual finding that video. Does that make a distinction? Sort of. Can anyone else help? Does anyone else have confusion over the two? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So delivery speed would be, and I just want to clarify what the delivery speed in our product was. Is that in terms of the turnaround time, like a due date, right? So maybe actualizing, so if that's a product goal, maybe a principle would be, I'm gonna make sure that that feature of having the user be able to pick within a week, within 2 weeks, maybe for a different price point, that is a primary aspect of the product before you ship. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes. Throughout the process, or just even in the meeting? Yeah, so hopefully you've already socialized this, so by the time you go into the kickoff meeting, the main people who would have any problem with the vision of this product have already been assuaged. And hopefully you may have already had to compromise your product vision during that time. So again, it's gonna be your periphery stakeholders that are going to be in the meeting that probably know that they can't weigh in too much on that really integral part of your product, like legal, maybe customer care. Probably won't get into the nitty-gritty at a kickoff meeting, but they'll probably get into a nitty-gritty later when you show them the feature that makes it really difficult for the user to find their email address after they signed up. So the rest of that process happens throughout the development. Yes.
A kickoff meeting shouldn't be the first time that anyone who's in that kickoff meeting has heard about the project or the product or the idea. You should have reached out to everyone and kind of taken their feedback in when you're kind of preparing the deck and doing all of that stuff. So you're not getting that kind of initial gut reaction to things or the initial dissent that may come from people. You've already squashed that in the background.
Well, they haven't actually seen the deck, so that's going to be really fun. Yes. Well, it's basically, think of it also as kind of a cheerleading aspect. Once you have business behind and advocating for it, it just brings a lot more enthusiasm and excitement to the project. And that's mostly what you're going to want to convey. Yeah, the sticky points have already been settled. And again, the periphery people, this is gonna be, they're seeing this for the first time, but what you really wanna emotionally convey is the passion behind it. And the official start, yeah. Yeah, I would think next steps, if people have ideas, you can still totally be collaborative about it. All right, thanks, you guys.